The morning begins long before the sun lifts itself above the horizon. In the quiet stillness of the savannah, the Hadzabe hunters rise. Their bodies are lean, hardened by a life lived in rhythm with the land. Their bows, carved from strong acacia wood, and their arrows, tipped with poison from desert plants, are more than weapons, they are extensions of their very being. Before setting out, there are no loud conversations, no unnecessary movements. Only a quiet acknowledgement of the day's purpose. Each man knows his role, each gesture is practiced from childhood. As the first rays of golden light spill across the grasslands, they move out together, blending into the land like shadows. To the Hadzabe, this is not simply a hunt, it is a way of survival, a tradition, a living bond with ancestors who once walked the same trails centuries ago. The hunt is not a chase. It is a conversation between man and the land, a silent dialogue carried in broken twigs, scattered dust, and fading footprints. As the Hadzabe hunters slip deeper into the jungle, every step is measured, every breath is careful. Their eyes dart between shadows and sunlight, reading the language of the wild, a language written not with letters, but with tracks pressed into the earth. A fresh print in the sand tells them a gazelle passed minutes ago. A bent blade of grass whispers of a guinea fowl darting into the thicket. Even the silence speaks. If the birds have gone quiet, something larger lurks nearby. They walk not as men intruding on nature, but as sons returning to a home older than memory. The hunt is not a chase. It is a conversation between man and the land, a silent dialogue carried in broken twigs, scattered dust, and fading footprints. As the Hadzabe hunters slip deeper into the jungle, every step is measured, every breath is careful. Their eyes dart between shadows and sunlight, reading the language of the wild, a language written not with letters, but with tracks pressed into the earth. A fresh print in the sand tells them a gazelle passed minutes ago. A bent blade of grass whispers of a guinea fowl darting into the thicket. Even the silence speaks. If the birds have gone quiet, something larger lurks nearby. They walk not as men intruding on nature, but as sons returning to a home older than memory. In this place, time does not rush, it stretches, slow and patient. The hunters know that one wrong sound can scatter their quarry into the horizon, but one well-placed step can bring food for the entire camp. This is not just a hunt. It is survival, it is tradition, it is life passed down from fathers to sons through centuries of firelit nights and whispered stories. The hunter, as he lowers himself onto one knee, his movements deliberate, almost reverent. His body, lean and sculpted by a lifetime of survival, bends close to the earth. Dust clings to his skin, mingling with the sheen of sweat glistening under the morning sun. In this moment, the forest seems to pause, holding its breath with him. His fingers extend, roughened by countless hunts, and gently sweep across the soil. To most eyes, the ground is nothing but dirt and scattered leaves. But to him, it is a storybook, alive with messages. His touch lingers over the faint outline of a footprint pressed into the damp earth, the toes splayed, the heel sunk deep. He studies its depth, its angle, its freshness, as though each subtle curve whispers secrets only he can understand. A broken twig catches his gaze. He pinches it lightly between his fingers, feeling where the fibers snapped, still green at the core. A disturbed patch of grass leans in one direction, betraying the path of a heavy body that brushed against it. To us, these are fragments of chaos. To him, they are sentences in a language older than memory, the wild's eternal script. Without a word, the hunter lifts his eyes to the man behind him. His expression is calm, but his gesture, a sharp flick of the wrist, a subtle tilt of the head, speaks volumes. The other hunter freezes, then leans forward, his breathing shallow, his gaze locked on the signs revealed before them. Silence reigns, broken only by the distant hum of cicadas and the whisper of wind through dry leaves. The camera lingers on the hunter's hand, palm flat on the soil now, feeling not only the print but the vibrations it has left behind. It is as if the land itself is alive, pulsing with the echoes of the animal that passed here. Somewhere ahead, perhaps no more than minutes ago, its muscles rippled, its breath steamed in the morning air, its hooves or paws pressed into this very ground. The light shifts, golden and warm, filtering through the tangled canopy above. Dust motes drift lazily in the sunbeams, framing the hunters in a cinematic glow that feels both intimate and eternal. Their faces, weathered yet unwavering, are etched with focus. They do not speak, because words would only shatter the fragile thread connecting them to the unseen creature they now follow. To watch them in this moment is to glimpse something profoundly ancient, a knowledge carried not in books or maps, but in blood and bone, handed down through whispers beside firelight, through nights spent listening to jackals cry and mornings spent chasing antelope across endless plains. Their every movement is born of instinct, sharpened by necessity, and guided by an unbroken chain of memory stretching back thousands of years. And here, kneeling in the dust with his hand pressed to the earth, the hunter is more than a man. He is a vessel of that lineage, a living testament to the deep, unspoken bond between human beings and the wild that first gave them life.
The release of the arrow is both sudden and inevitable. The string snaps forward, the arrow cutting through the air with deadly precision. An antelope, startled by a sound too late, leaps into the air, only to feel the sting of the poison tip. For a moment, the land holds its breath. Then chaos erupts, the chase begins. The hunters sprint with astonishing speed, their bare feet barely touching the ground. They run not in panic but with the endurance of men trained for this moment since childhood. Every muscle in their body knows what to do. The wounded animal bolts, crashing through brush and thorns, but the hunters do not falter. They pursue with relentless determination, their breathing steady, their rhythm unbroken. To watch them is to witness raw human instinct, the very essence of survival carved into motion. Patience becomes their greatest weapon. Hours can pass without a single shot released. The hunters stalk silently, their bodies weaving between trees, their feet careful not to snap a twig or disturb dry leaves. Their eyes narrow, scanning shadows for movement. Their ears catch whispers of the forest that most people would never hear. For them, hunting is not reckless pursuit. It is art, it is waiting, it is blending into the land until even the animals are unaware of their presence. One wrong move, one loud breath, and the chance is gone. So they wait, crouched low, muscles tight like coiled springs. In this silence, time feels stretched. Every second becomes heavy, every heartbeat louder. Then, with the sudden grace of a hawk, a hunter raises his bow, the hunt has begun. The hunt is a quiet, deliberate affair. Every step has meaning. The men move swiftly and silently through the thick brush, their senses sharpened like the edge of an arrowhead. Where the untrained eye sees only random twigs and dirt, the Hadzabe hunter reads a book written in nature's language. A bent stalk reveals where a gazelle brushed past. A patch of disturbed soil marks the hurried leap of a warthog. They pause often, crouching low, pressing their palms into the earth, feeling its story. They can tell the age of a footprint, the weight of the animal, the direction it traveled, and how fast it was moving, all in a matter of seconds. The forest is alive with clues, and the hunters know how to listen. A rustle far away. the warning cry of a bird. The faint smell of dust stirred up by hooves. Each sign guides them deeper into the wilderness, closer to their prey. The Hadzabe hunters step lightly, their bare feet knowing exactly where to land. Not a twig snaps, not a stone rolls, not a sound escapes them. Their bows rest against their shoulders, carved from resilient wood that has known many hunts, their strings tightened and seasoned by countless hours under the African sun. Quivers heavy with arrows cling to their backs, each arrow tipped with poison carefully prepared from desert rose sap and the juice of toxic beetles, a lethal whisper against the skin of prey. One hunter, older, pauses suddenly. He kneels, pressing his palm against the soil. His eyes narrow as he studies the ground. A footprint. Fresh. The edges of the soil are still moist, the indentation crisp. He brushes his fingers lightly across the mark, feeling the story written there. He leans forward, examining broken blades of grass nearby, a snapped twig, and the faint trace of animal musk lingering in the air. Without a word, he raises two fingers and points ahead. The others immediately freeze, their breaths shallow, their bodies melting into the forest shadows. The jungle speaks to them in a language outsiders rarely understand. A rustle in the underbrush means more than the sound of wind, it tells them which creature moved, and how long ago. The distant echo of hooves is not just noise, it is direction, distance, and speed woven into one. Even silence carries meaning, for the absence of birdsong may reveal the presence of a predator, a lion perhaps, crouched somewhere unseen. The hunters advance, weaving between thick acacia and baobab roots, their eyes constantly searching. A squirrel darts up a tree trunk, startled not by them, but by something heavier, larger. The hunters exchange glances. Antelope, perhaps. Maybe even a kudu. The thought stirs them with quiet energy. Their bodies glisten under the sun filtering through the leaves, sweat tracing lines of dust on their dark skin. Each breath they take is deliberate, slow, measured. Patience is their greatest weapon. A Hadzabe hunter does not chase blindly. He becomes part of the land, waiting, listening, calculating. Time is irrelevant here, only instinct matters. They stop again. The youngest hunter, lean and sharp-eyed, crouches to the ground. He studies a patch of disturbed soil, tilts his head, and presses his ear close to the earth. After a moment, he looks up. His lips part, but no words come. Instead, he uses a single gesture, a flat hand sweeping forward, then curling downward. The others understand. The animal is close, resting in shade, unaware that hunters move within reach. Minutes stretch into hours. The men blend into their surroundings, their bodies low, their movements slow as flowing water. A hornbill cackles overhead, breaking the silence, but the hunters do not falter. Their eyes pierce through layers of brush until finally, movement. There, between thorn bushes, the subtle shift of a flank, the twitch of an ear. The older hunter raises his bow. The world seems to stop. Even the insects hold their buzzing. His arm draws back slowly, veins tight against his skin, the arrow pulled taut against the bowstring. He exhales, a soft whisper, almost a prayer to the ancestors. The arrow releases, slicing through the humid air with a hiss, striking with silent precision. A cry echoes, the animal leaps, stumbles, then vanishes deeper into the forest. The hunters spring into motion, their strides powerful, swift. They do not shout, do not break their silence. Their chase is measured, relentless, guided by footprints that blur to any other eye but sharpen to theirs like ink on parchment. Through thorn and tall grass, over rock and shallow streams, the hunt continues. The jungle bears witness, watching as ancient survival plays out beneath its green ceiling. Every step is history repeating itself, an unbroken line of knowledge stretching back to the very first hunters of this land. The clearing was silent, except for the ragged breath of the hunters. Dust hung in the shafts of sunlight, shimmering like spirits watching unseen. Ahead, the antelope froze, its ears twitching, nostrils flaring at the scent of danger. For a moment, time seemed to stretch like a bowstring. The hunter drew back his arrow, muscles taut, eyes narrowing with the patience of a man who has lived his life in rhythm with prey. The bow creaked softly, a sound older than iron, older than the tribes that rose and fell across these lands. And then, with the sudden release of years of tradition, the arrow cut through the air.
Its flight was a breath, a whisper, a straight line of intent.
But fate is not always merciful.
The antelope's body jolted, instincts sharper than sharpened steel, and in one graceful bound, it vanished into the green shadows. The arrow struck earth, quivering in disappointment. A second hunter had already released his shot, but his aim, too, missed the fleeting blur. Instead, from the thickets to the left, came a guttural scream, high-pitched, furious, startled. The arrow had found another target. The creature staggered, its fur bristling, its eyes wide with both rage and terror. It thrashed in the bushes, teeth bared in primal defiance. But the hunters knew the laws of the wild: no arrow loosed in hunger is wasted. The jungle had chosen, and they would honor what was given. The men rushed forward, swift as shadows. Another arrow struck, ending the baboon's struggle. Its body stilled, cradled by the earth it had known all its life. For a heartbeat, silence. The hunters stood over their unexpected kill, their chests rising and falling, their skin glistening with sweat and dust. They did not cheer, nor mourn. The Hadzabe know that life feeds life. The gift of survival often comes in forms one does not seek. With practiced hands, they lashed the baboon to a sturdy pole, its arms hanging limp, its weight balanced between them. Together, they lifted it onto their shoulders. The pole pressed against muscle and bone, but their pace was steady, rhythmic, the march of men returning with the promise of fire, meat, and story. The sun sank low as they emerged from the thicket. The path home stretched long and winding, but each step echoed with triumph. In the distance, smoke curled above their village, and children's voices carried faint on the wind. The hunters exchanged glances, weary, solemn, proud. Tonight, the village would feast. Not on antelope, as first imagined, but on the flesh of the baboon, offered by chance, claimed by skill, and carried with reverence. The jungle had written a different ending to their hunt, and they walked beneath its gaze as men who had listened and obeyed. The closer they came to the village, the more their pace quickened, anticipation burning quietly in their chests. The baboon was not merely meat, it was sustenance for the children, the mothers, the elders. It was a story to be told by the fire that night, of arrows loosed and quarry lost, of the spirit of the hunt that always offers something to those who do not surrender. At last, the first huts of the village appeared in the distance, framed by the vast Tanzanian sky. The air carried faint voices, laughter, the cries of children at play, the rhythmic pounding of roots being prepared. When the hunters emerged from the tree-line, bearing the baboon across their shoulders, the village stirred in recognition. Women rose from their tasks, children ran forward with wide eyes, and the elders nodded knowingly. The hunt had spoken, and the hunters had returned. The pole was lowered gently, the animal placed upon the earth. Fires would soon crackle, knives would be sharpened, and smoke would rise into the dusk. The Hadzabe had once again proven that as long as the forest breathes, they too shall endure. The jungle had denied them the antelope, but it had given them the baboon. And so the story of survival continued, one hunt flowing into the next, as eternal as the land itself. The hunters returned to the village carrying the weight of their kill upon a single pole. The baboon's lifeless body swung gently with each step, its fur matted from the chase, its limbs stiffening under the heat of the late afternoon sun. Flies circled in spirals above it, the hum of their wings mixing with the steady rhythm of the men's feet upon the dry earth. The hunters' faces were streaked with sweat and dust, their chests rising and falling with the satisfaction of a pursuit completed, yet their eyes remained sharp, proud. This was not just meat, it was survival. As they reached the heart of the camp, women and children gathered, curiosity lighting their faces. The children whispered and pointed, their small fingers tracing the outline of the creature hanging from the pole. The older women stepped forward, their expressions neither shocked nor celebratory, but practical. Life in the wild offered no luxuries of sentiment. Food was food, and today, the baboon was sustenance. The men lowered the body onto a bed of leaves. A hush fell across the clearing. A seasoned elder, his skin like weathered bark, knelt beside the carcass. He whispered a few words, not to the people, but to the animal itself. His murmur carried respect, an acknowledgement that the creature's spirit had given itself so that the tribe might live another day.
Among the Hadzabe, such rituals bound life and death together in a thread of continuity. Then the work began. A sharpened blade, its edge gleaming faintly in the firelight, was drawn across the baboon's hide. The hunters worked quickly but with a patience born from generations of practice. Skin peeled away under the steady pressure of hands and knives, revealing the deep red muscle beneath. The earth beneath them darkened as the blood spilled freely, soaking into the soil, a vivid reminder of the cycle of the hunt. The metallic scent filled the air, mingling with the dust and smoke. Children watched with wide eyes as the hide was pulled back, the sinews cut clean, and the animal's form slowly transformed from what it had been into what it would become meat for roasting. Women fetched bundles of dry wood, stacking them into a circle where flames would soon leap and dance. Sparks shot into the air as a fire was kindled, its crackle breaking the silence of the ritual. Soon, the roasting began. Slabs of meat were skewered on green sticks and set above the rising fire. The fat hissed and dripped into the flames, sending bursts of smoke upward, carrying with it a rich, primal aroma. It was the smell of survival, a scent older than memory itself, the same fragrance that had filled countless nights since humanity's earliest fires. The hunters sat close, their eyes reflecting the glow of the flames, their bodies weary yet proud. The women turned the skewers with steady hands, ensuring the meat browned evenly, the skin crisping, the juices sealed inside. The crackling sound of roasting flesh filled the night, and soon the savory smoke spread across the camp, pulling children closer, their mouths watering in anticipation. When the first cuts were ready, an elder sliced pieces and handed them to the hunters who had made the kill. This was tradition, the hunters who brought the life home tasted it first, honoring the spirit of the chase. Teeth tore into the meat, smoke still clinging to its fibers, juices running down their fingers. The hunters chewed slowly, not out of hesitation, but reverence. The meat was then shared among the gathered families. Each piece, however small, mattered. Nothing was wasted, not the hide, not the bones, not the organs. The hide would become ties and coverings, the bones, sharpened into tools, even the organs, boiled and eaten for strength. To the Hadzabe, the baboon was not just prey, it was a gift to be fully embraced. As the flames flickered and the night deepened, the sound of chewing, soft conversation, and the occasion. As the meal neared completion, silence fell. The elder raised his hand, his voice firm yet gentle. What we eat is not only meat, but the spirit of the hunt, the courage of the hunters, and the gift of the land. He lifted the first roasted piece, tearing it with his teeth, and chewed with deliberate slowness before passing portions to the hunters who had risked their lives. The rest of the villagers followed. Children tore small bites, their lips shining with oil, their laughter echoing through the open air. Women shared bowls of stew, sipping broth with reverence. The fire glowed brighter as the meal stretched into the night. Songs rose low, rhythmic chants that spoke of the baboon's strength, of the chase, of the unity that kept the Hadzabe alive. The hunters' sweat and exhaustion dissolved into pride as they watched their people eat. To them, the greatest victory was not the kill itself, but the full bellies, the smiling faces, and the continuation of life in a land where survival was never promised. When the last bone was gnawed clean and the fire turned to embers, they buried the remains in the soil, returning what was borrowed. Above them, stars blinked in silent witness. The hunt had ended, but the story would live on in the memories of every child who licked grease from their fingers, every elder who sang into the smoke, and every hunter who felt the weight of responsibility settle heavier on his shoulders. The fire has burned low, its embers glowing like scattered stars on the earth. The smoke curls into the night sky, carrying with it the scent of roasted meat and the echoes of laughter that drift softly through the trees. Around the fire, the Hadzabe sit close, their faces lit in warm orange, their bellies full, their hearts bound by the silent covenant of survival. The baboon, once a shadow in the branches, is now part of them, its life woven into theirs, just as countless hunts have done since the dawn of their people. There are no leftovers, no scraps wasted. Every piece is honored. Bones are cracked for marrow, hides repurposed, and what cannot be eaten is returned to the earth. Nothing here is excess. Nothing here is forgotten. For the Hadzabe, every meal is more than nourishment, it is remembrance. It is a story of arrows loosed, of footsteps chased, of sweat poured beneath the unforgiving sun, and of a fire that welcomes them home. As the night deepens, the hunters lean back, staring into the sky. The stars are maps of their ancestors, watching, guiding, reminding them that they are part of a cycle much older than the villages, older than the cities beyond the horizon. Tomorrow, the hunt will begin again. Tomorrow, the forest will whisper new signs. And tomorrow, these children of the savannah will rise once more, barefoot upon the earth, bound to the land that has never betrayed them. This is life for the Hadzabe, not past, not myth, but living truth. A reminder to us all that humanity's first fire still burns, quietly, faithfully, in the heart of Africa.
Hmm.